Yeah.
Welcome to the Wise Take DFS podcast. I am your host, CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined once again by Patio Joe. You can find him on Twitter at Patio Joe Rep. That's REF. Patio Joe handles all of our bankroll management, cash game strategies. And then we have Paulie D, aka Paulie 8Ds. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie D. That's 8 D's. Paulie, of course, handles all of our higher dollar GPP type of stuff. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight, man?
We're doing well. We're doing well. I just got back from the beach today, so I'm a little bit sunburned, but the wife was gone for the weekend, so now she's back, and it's like, take care of the kid, and I'm cool right now, so I'm happy.
I am fine.
Yeah, man.
Joe. I am, bro. I am, okay? My brother would tell him, B, I know you're watching.
That's why I wanted to ask that question, because I knew that would get him to laugh. That's why.
My bad, Paulie. What was you saying, bro? I'm sorry.
Nothing, man. I had a good weekend. I chilled out. I really didn't play much DFS. I actually built Joey a lineup Saturday that did well, so I was a little bummed I didn't play, but just wanted to clear my head coming into this weekend live final and just kind of get a bunch of rest. I slept a lot this weekend, just chilled out.
Yeah, man.
Translation, he was up until 6 a.m. and then slept all day until about 7 o'clock at night and then stayed up until 6 a.m. again. That's what it was.
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
Yo, we were just talking, the other day we were talking about that, and I was like, yo, I don't think I've ever heard Paulie actually say, hey, yo. But when Joe starts saying, hey, yo, I immediately know for some reason that he's referring to Paulie. Like, why? He's never said it, but I get it. I'm like, yeah.
Now I'm gonna say it. Yeah. Now I say it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, it's happening now. Paulie, man, super excited for you, man. Repping us over here at Wise Takeover at the FanDuel Live Final coming up in Chicago. 6 days away, right, bro?
6 days. Next Sunday is the day, man.
So just so you guys
really
know, man. Paulie's doing this thing with the articles for all of our members, of course. And but for himself, he's actually even reduced. And it's not like you play a lot of lineups anyway, but you've really been trying to narrow it down and try to simulate almost a roster that you would build in a situation if it were a live final.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
Since I only have one bullet, I've just been making one team a night and simulating all the hard decisions that go into doing that. And
Let me ask you something, Paulie. How many entries are there total?
So there's 100 entries. It's a 100-man tournament, but a lot of people have multiples. Like the max in FanDuel is 3. I think it's 70 people, 100 entries.
Okay, so do you think you're just going to be playing in $100 to 100-man all week?
Yeah, exactly. Not even 100-mans, but just what 100 around 100 people tournaments. Yeah, and just building one lineup. It's more about just building the one lineup than what tournaments they actually go in. But it's weird. The pitching slate was horrible, and I kind of like that. I feel that allows the people who do the work a little bit of an edge. But the Indians had an injury to Josh Tomlin, and now Kluber against Tampa Bay is on the slate. So he's gonna be mega chalk, probably 70% owned. He's been dominant, and I don't know how to approach that. Normally I just fade that on a normal GPP slate, right. But 100 people live final, he puts up that 70 and you don't have him, you're done. Or you fade him and he duds, you have a great chance to win, but it's a hard decision with just one lineup.
Yeah, that's interesting because I find it similar to when Fuego went to the final for the first time for basketball. Because when he went, it was Harden and Westbrook on the slate. So it was a similar situation where maybe on a bigger slate, maybe you take the chance of fading, but in 100-man, a little over 100 people, what do you do then? And so, one thing he told me actually when we were bringing him on the pods back then, regularly, he was saying it was, it was real cool. He was able to kind of walk through it's the same thing that we've been doing with you. So it was exciting. But anyway, it's funny. He just popped in the chat. It's almost like I just mentioned his name and boom, his ears were ringing. Anyway, one thing he was saying is that when he went there, he noticed a lot of the more experienced guys were putting their cash game lineups in it. You know what I mean? So like it's
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah.
Paulie. I don't know, man.
I asked you
you
the
got some
same
thinking to
question
do.
last week.
Yep,
I
definitely.
asked you the same question last week. I said, "Are you going to go more cash because
Right.
it's only 100 people?" I mean, basically, what we're looking at now. I mean, just to talk here, we're looking at anybody who's throwing tomorrow who has a day off on Thursday, or anybody that throws today or Tuesday is going to be pitching on Sunday. Correct?
Yeah, a lot of them are pitching Tuesday. A few guys pitch today, and there's a handful on tomorrow's slate, but not too many actually. The bulk of them are pitching Tuesday.
Because Chris Sale also pitches on Tuesday.
No, the Yankees Red Sox game is the 8 o'clock game next Sunday.
Obviously, yeah, they would
okay.
never. So that's why. Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at who's pitching. Yeah, Kluber.
Yeah,
is
the next
pitching
best
Tuesday.
pitcher is Waka, and then it gets like real ugly after that.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Like, I got the smooth sounds of
Chad Cool.
of Chad Cool against the Jays. We got the Rockies guy Hoffman against Vance Worley, like Chris Flexen, Garza, Sally Boy Romano, Vargas, Holland, Sim.
Boy.
Like it's an ugly slate.
Hey, what about Herman Marquez? Is he gonna be pitching?
No, it's Hoffman.
Oh God, if he would be interesting, because he's been hot, and I don't know, he's pitching, and that could be even in the later. They could be playing in the later slate anyway. So
no, the Rockies are playing the Marlins. It's Vance
really?
Worley
Okay.
versus Hoffman.
You're pretty sure about that? I mean, it could be. I guess, yeah. I mean, something could change though. A lot could change. A rain out screws up everything.
Yeah. Like I think
it that way.
I think most of it will be like, the same, but yeah, like one or two could get changed, an injury, a rain out. I really hope the Indians one changes because I don't like that, like one mega superstar against the team that strikes out the most. It's like it's a tough decision.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
my instinct is to fade it, but
in 100-man like cash game type, it might be time to. I mean, let's see, what would Gautzab do? Gautzab, Kluber's pitching next Sunday. What are you doing? You fading him against the Rays?
See, he's got two entries. He'll probably build one with and one without.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say you only had one Gautzab. Okay, we're not all fortunate like you. All right, we're D-Tech Nation. And let's see.
It's funny, man. Like I gotta say, I'm sitting here right now. So obviously Paulie's he's got his big live final coming up. Gautzab's got a couple seats. He's he's hanging out in the chat watching the pod. Fuego, who's got experience, he's actually gonna be hanging out down there. Anyway, so it's like think about the people we have. That's just in the chat. You know what I mean? Like I gotta say, man, like we got some cool friends, right?
Okay, here's the thing: is I guarantee you, by the time lineup locks on Sunday, you will know where everybody in that of those 70 people are going. I bet you.
Sure.
Just the talk around town will know.
Right.
Everybody's going Kluber. Everybody's not going Kluber. Something like that. I'm almost positive. It just seems that in that circle, somebody might even like. Catfish you though and say like throw out some other name. Tommy G throws out some other name and everybody's on him now for some reason. I don't know. I'm just
Tommy G's got three entries.
Yeah,
he's got the max.
Wow.
So he'll be able to diversify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's almost like that FanDuel knuckleball contest is kind of like the perfect practice almost, right? Like on some slates. Because sometimes there's like 120 people and the max entry is like 3, I think. So it's like it's interesting, man. Man, we're gonna try to do what we can to stay communicate with just so you can maybe share some of your experience with everybody. It's great, it's a great stuff for you to be able to experience this and kind of give it to our listeners and our members more importantly and just kind of walk them through the experience, man. Because there's a lot of people that aren't gonna, it's hard to do. There's a lot of people playing DFS that you're not gonna. I hate to say it, even if you're good, there's a lot of good people out there who've never been to a live final. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So when you get to experience something like that, man, it's real cool. So we're excited for you, Paulie, man.
Well, and it goes down to everything else. People make it a goal to just qualify, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But you have to say that is what you want your goal to be.
Yeah.
Because one of the great ways to get in this industry is to go to a live final because that's where you meet everybody. That's where you can rub elbows. So if you are that type, you need to know if you want to be a qualifier, That's great, but I've always been told this, and I was taught this when I first started. You have a separate bankroll just for qualifying, and then you have your other bankroll. Don't try and throw that in, because most of qualifying is just going to go straight down the toilet, because the cash outs are so just weighted and everything. So if you're a newer player, if you want to go in qualifiers, go ahead, but you got to make that your commitment to do it and have a separate bankroll just for that.
Yeah, it goes back to that video, guys. If those of you that are watching, if you haven't checked out the video that Joe made on our YouTube channel, it's free. It's up there on the YouTube channel. But the title of it is to ask your goals. So I definitely, what are your goals? Ask your goal. I'm reading the chat and talking at the same time. That's what happens at 11:44 at night. It was CK. But anyway, yeah, watch the video, check it out, man. Because have you ever really thought about it? Have you played? Never thought about my goal is to. Have you ever thought about it? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're playing, like, you'll be so much better. It's like my dad and my brother, right? Like, they got motorcycles. They don't like to drive aimlessly. They like to have a destination. Even if they have to go at night. If they want to go for a ride, where are we going? I don't want to just aimlessly drive. You don't enjoy it because you're constantly thinking where you're going. Whereas if they have a goal, they can just enjoy the ride. You know what I'm saying? So it's important. Watch the video and see what Joe's talking about, and try to learn what your goals are. Decide what your goals are. You might not know, and it could really help your game, man, because it's all your strategy should be based around your goals. So definitely check that out. Anyway, guys, you want to talk about this slate? We don't have too much, but if we have some time, maybe we could talk some football afterwards. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it. All right, first game, we got Chris O'Grady, the lefty from the Miami Marlins, visiting Max Scherzer. We got confirmation today, I think, that he's supposed to start. It looks like we could have some rain, though. Although earlier I was seeing heavy rain, now I'm seeing light rain, but still 53% chance of precipitation. So, it looks like we might have to battle the weather. We'll see tomorrow. Joe, start us off, man.
All right, so Max Scherzer, if the weather's okay, Max Scherzer's your cash game pitcher tomorrow. There's no talk about it. I'm only going to write about one person. The thing is that if he's not on the slate, or if it's a bad weather game where you think there might be some sort of even just a delay, you can go with your hitters, you fade the pitchers at that point. At that point, I'm going to tell everybody I wouldn't even play much cash at all. I would just switch it to a GPP slate, because I look at the other pitchers, and there's not very many others that I'm like, yeah, I really want to go there tomorrow, especially in a 7-game slate, which then if you throw out the pitchers, and now makes it really a 6-game slate. So just be careful tomorrow in cash. But, as for if there is weather problems, throw out those batters, though, because in GPPs, people will be off of it. They get scared. A couple things happened last week with rainouts and such, and not rainouts. So it's a tricky situation on when you're going to keep guys in your lineup and when you're going to take them out. Last week, there was a thing. It was like, get them all out of the lineup. Oh, it was the Detroit game on Friday night, and it was like it upgraded it. So I took out all the Detroit and Baltimore games. Sure enough, first inning, 2 home runs by Detroit, and you're just like, God damn it, Yeah. So it's tough, and it's, I think as a DFS player, you really have to develop your own set of beliefs of like, this is what I'm going to do when it gets to this point. I'm going to take out my players, or I'm going to leave them in. And if it's in cash games, I take them out if there's any chance of postponement. But if it's a GPPs, that's when you can win really easily, is if you ride with that rain out game and it still plays and you get everybody at 5%.
Yeah, the thing about weather, like if it doesn't rain out, or even if there's a delay, the bats are still going to play. And, when there's rain, there's humidity, and that makes the ball travel better. So, like, you're getting this combination of lower owned and in a great hitting environment, that we've seen it a few times this year. So, like for GPPs, I say keep them in unless it's a really big threat of rain out. And, like the weather guys are pretty legit. They make mistakes from time to time, but for the most part, if you follow their advice, you'll find yourself on the right side of it. Like, very rarely have I played guys and then the game get rained out. A few times maybe I didn't play guys because the risk was too high and then they ended up playing. But, very rarely the other way around, just based on following like Roth.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point. Any other thoughts on the game aside from the?
Well, I mean, I said the hitters were good, so I mean, you could throw up all the gnats you want, and on the other side, if Scherzer's pitching, you fade all the Marlins.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so If it's like, no weather risk at all, then, sure. Then play Scherzer. He'll be great in tournaments too. Miami doesn't strike out a ton, but, that won't really matter versus Scherzer. If it's like a weather risk game, like a Marlins stack could be interesting because maybe Scherzer, pitches 3 innings and there's a rain delay and then he gets pulled. Then you get the Marlins at low ownership versus, mediocre bullpen. But, otherwise, it depends on the weather, how you play that. On the flip side, I think, the Nationals bats are interesting. Chris O'Grady, is nothing to be scared of. And guys like Howie Kendrick, you could play Bryce Harper versus him, and like Anthony Rendon and Zimmerman could be in play here.
Yeah, man. The one thing that I'll add is that so far this season, the Washington Nationals weather team or whatever, they have been the worst. Like they have made some of the I've seen like Kevin Roth, who obviously is a guy that we all respect in the industry for the weather, just completely rip them apart because they've made multiple bad calls. So that's the only thing with games in Washington. I can't stand them, man. We've seen them so far wait for rain to occur and then end up having to cancel a game that they could have played fully, but they waited for the rain for like 3 hours, and then by the time they started, it finally came. And it was like, I've seen them do that. We've seen them do all kinds of things and botch the weather. So that's obviously a bit of concern, but definitely great points. Jordan Zimmerman of the Detroit Tigers visiting Trevor Williams of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Joe, what you got for me, man?
Yeah, I kind of like the Pirates tomorrow against Zimmerman. He's prone to get blown up, so I can attack him. I know it's a kind of the ballpark isn't great, but a little mini stack of maybe I don't know, McCutcheon, Marte, or Clint Frazier's moving up, something like that. I'm down for. And the Tigers, I think you could put them into. They're pretty hot. They came off a decent series off Baltimore where they scored some runs. So I like this game.
Yeah, for sure. Paulie, what you got here, man?
Neither of these pitchers really interest me. For the Tigers, Justin Upton's been on fire. He's probably the only real guy I'd be interested in on their team, or maybe Aducci if he's still cheap, like a one-off against Williams. And the Pirates could be interesting, though. They've been pretty hot. Zimmerman is a bad pitcher, although he's going to a good ballpark here and, decent weather environment for a pitcher. But if you play the Tigers, it would be a full stack. Definitely include Marte, McCutcheon, and then either like Harrison, Bell, or Polanco and Bell. They're in play, but I think overall there's probably better spots. I'm not that interested in this game.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because it definitely sounds like you I'm like not that you're over enthusiastic about the Pirates, but it sounds like you're a little more open to them than you are normally. And I just want to point out that it's because it's only a 7-game slate, possibly even 6 if a game gets canceled. So like, the upside is limited in general. So I think we should point that out because a lot of times, Paulie, a lot of the things that you say, and me and Joe always agree with you, is that the Pirates don't usually provide enough upside as a team. Those large, like 10 to 12, 15 game slates. This is a different situation, though. We got a smaller slate, so there's a different approach. I just wanted to point that out, man. That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're tied for the highest, projected run total on this slate right now. So,
Arr, matey, it's a pirate day for Paulie D. Arr, matey, you stack the Pirates.
Ayo.
A pirate's life for me, Paulie D.
All right, we got Mr. Jules Chaucine of the San Diego Padres visiting Tim Adelman of the Cincinnati Reds. Joe, go ahead, start us off here, man.
Oh, man, I like this game, too. Adelman's garbage. Chaucine is garbage on the road. So I like this game. I hope the weather's good. I hope that's good. I like pretty much everything. You could, the lefties, the righties, I think it's good either way. Even the Padres. I think you can get sneaky with the Padres because people don't really play the Padres that much. So I think you can get a little bit of Padres in there because Adelman is prone to giving up the home run. So, yeah, I'm into this game tomorrow for sure.
Okay. Paulie, what you got for me, man?
It's funny. FanDuel's got your son, Robert Stevenson, as the pitcher for this game.
He's hurt, bro. My kid is hurt.
He's hurt?
Yeah, he's hurt. He's hurt. Daddy knows.
He was placed on the 10-day DL on August 6th. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it's probably Adelman.
Daddy knows, bro.
I like the Reds in this spot. Billy Hamilton, Cozart, Votto, Gannett. Mostly you want the lefties, but you could throw in a Duval or a Cozart in a stack. Great ballpark. Chassin struggles on the road, so they're definitely interested in the Reds. They're probably going to be one of the chalkier offenses, though, so we will have to see how heavily we want to get invested there. On the other side, I think Adelman could be interesting as a cheap starter on this slate. He's 4-6 on DraftKings. I don't know if FanDuel's got a price for him yet. Let's see, 6-2. So, he could be a cheap, flyer starter that you take and hope that if he's got a good umpire, he can rack up some strikeouts versus San Diego. I hear Joey's side too. They have been hitting better. They're like the third most powerful team in terms of ISO since the All-Star break. So, a couple players or a stack of the Padres on a small slate is not crazy. They could easily be the highest scoring team in that stadium out of these, 7 games. So it's definitely not something we want to write off. But I'm also considering Tim Adelman as well.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely with you. Adelman, especially on DraftKings at his price, it's interesting, especially if for any reason I think we should be okay with Scherzer, but if for any reason we're not, then that's going to really narrow the pool down even more, and he's even a better play. But on DraftKings, especially right now, man, I think he's definitely interesting. You have to consider these guys that maybe aren't so great, and we wouldn't consider them when they're in elite matchups. You have to consider them because it's like you always see those scrubby guys have those 1 or 2 good games. Most of the time, it's against a scrubby team. So it's like this is one of those situations where you have to acknowledge.
And Adelman's got
go ahead.
Adelman's got a 25% K rate against righties. The Padres lineup's pretty righty heavy.
Yeah.
So unless there's a bunch of lefties, I probably would be interested in Adelman.
Oh yeah, man. If I'm with you, and we know about Chassin in his home and road splits. Joey Votto seems to be hitting up. He hit a couple home runs. He hit 2 home runs in a row. We know Scooter Gannett apparently has 4 home run upside apparently. So that's stuff to consider for sure. Anyway, Joe, I see in the chat somebody wants you to oil your arms next time.
Well, I can't blame her.
Brah, you gotta get them oiled up, brah.
Yeah. Oil. Hey, listen. 2 things make everything better: oil and bacon. Remember that.
Bacon.
All right, guys. We got Carlos Martinez of the St. Louis Cardinals visiting Ian Kennedy of the Kansas City Royals. Joe, what you got for me here, man?
Yeah, this is like battle of the Midwest, like teams, and I mean Carlos Martinez has been kind of disappointing lately, so I'm not really into him. He's facing a team that doesn't strike out very much. Ian Kennedy on the other side, not really into him either. I think basically this game is sort of a pass for me. I guess when I say that, then you should stack because it'll go off for 15 runs. But I don't know. I just don't see the much upside from Carlos Martinez tomorrow night. And Kennedy is always prone to give up at least 1 or 2 bombs to some lefties. So Carpenter. I like some plays like that. I'm into one-offs. But as a stack or something when you GPP, man, I guess you can go off the grid, but it's not for me.
I hear you, Paulie. What you think here, man?
Yeah, like Ian Kennedy's fly ball pitcher. This is a good park for him, and I'm pretty sure he does well against righties. Let me just check. The lefties definitely hit him better. 320 WOBA, 216 ISO. Righties, 292 WOBA, 167 ISO. About a 21% K rate. Ian Kennedy can give you a good start once every 10 starts or so. I guess we got to consider him too on this slate. The Cardinals don't have many lefties outside of Matt Carpenter, so he may be in a decent spot. If he gets a good ump, maybe he'll be someone to consider. And Carlos Martinez, he's tough. He has GPP winning upside, but probably not against this Royals team that's been very hot lately and has a bunch of lefties that could hit off of him. I think a Royals stack is definitely in play here, especially some of the power guys like Moose and Moss. Melky, you get a bunch of lefties against him and, probably won't be very high owned. But this is a weird game as well. So this is an ugly slate.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
I'm with you guys. It's not looking so attractive, and Seymour, something hasn't been right with him. He just hasn't looked all that great. And like you said, the Royals, they really haven't been striking out lately. Like, earlier this year we were able to pick on them, and it was like the big secret. Oh, guess what? They strike out now. But lately they haven't been. They've somehow like even when they're not hitting well, they're still not striking out in those games. So it's like, I think I'm with you. I'm a little concerned. Kennedy is a guy. I also agree that like we have to take a look at him. Nobody likes to play this guy, and nobody feels comfortable. But he does have somewhat K upside, especially at home. He's got like an 8K per night at home, so it's like you got to look at him, and he is better to righties. We know the Cardinals are right-handed dominant. These fly ball pitchers in these big ballparks, it's almost they get a lot more outs from these things. The ball goes up. There's just so much ground to carry, and even ground ball pitchers. If you think about it, a double could turn into a triple in this ballpark. If you're a ground ball guy and you give up a hard, solid line driver ground ball, and that thing gets in the corner in a huge park like this. What's a double in most parks now turned into a triple. So it's like I do think that there is somewhat, as long as the ball's not carrying, there is somewhat of a slight just to kind of even the playing field more. Like you can get away with fly ball pitchers in ballparks like that.
And I mean if you're on DK, like you need 2 pitchers on this slate.
Right.
You gotta consider Kennedy and Carmar, but Carmar probably wouldn't work with a Scherzer if his game's clear. You're gonna need a little bit of a cheaper pitchers. So Kennedy's someone we got to consider, just like Williams in the Pirates game and Adelman in the Reds game. You got to find that second pitcher on this slate.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got Dylan Bundy of Fuego's Baltimore Orioles visiting J.C. Ramirez of the Los Angeles Angels. This time we're gonna start off with Paulie. Let's change.
Wait. I think we skipped a game.
Did we skip a game?
Yeah, we skipped a game. We skipped a game in Minnesota.
Brewers game. There's a Brewers game in there.
Can we please talk about that game, please?
Okay, we can. I'm sorry, Joe. You're right.
It's actually important.
It is actually probably the best looking game on the board.
It's important. Damn it.
Brent Suter of the Milwaukee Brewers visiting Irvin Santana of the Minnesota Twins, but we're still going to start off with Paulie. For this one.
Nice. I don't get to start too much, but I'm going to take advantage and take this time to do 5 questions on Patio Joe in the hot seat.
That's it. This is it. Yes.
This is the moment.
This is your moment.
Okay,
Kid.
this is it. This is surprising. I'm good. I'm ready. All right.
Let us know. You're ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. If you were stranded on an island, what are 3 things that you would want to have?
3 things I'd want to have is unlimited supply of weed, a blonde with a southern accent and big tits, and unlimited supply of food and water.
Okay. All right.
Wait, unlimited supply of food and water. What is that?
I guess, he needs food.
He needs food.
All right. What is the name? Tell us something on your bucket list that no one knows.
Tell me something on my bucket list that no one knows. I want to go to Australia.
Interesting.
That's about it. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. All right. Who is your favorite DFS tout?
Tommy G.
Tommy G. Doubt he's listening, but if he is, nice.
Nice.
What is your biggest weakness in Las Vegas, since we're going to be there in September?
Blonde with southern accent and big tits.
And what is your biggest regret in life?
My biggest regret in life is not getting one more transferable unit when I was at JC, because then I would have transferred to San Diego State and played baseball at Division I, because I was too stupid in the classroom. That's my biggest regret in life.
Damn.
Wow. What position? What position did you play?
I was a pitcher.
Pitcher. Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I had a recruiting trip to San Diego State. Went down there, sent them my transcripts. They're like, you have 55 transferable units and you need 56. And because I wasn't like a blue chipper, you know what I mean? I was a JC transfer, they weren't going to use a special admit, so I was good, but I wasn't, that good. So I wound up going to Division II school, Cal State Hayward, which is now renamed Cal State East Bay. But anyways, yeah, that was my D1 story.
Nice. Very nice.
That was a deep one,
All
man.
right, that's
Yeah.
5 questions
That
with
was
Patio
good.
Joe.
5 questions with
Yeah.
Patio Joe. All right, now whichever one of you want to talk about
That
the
was good.
Twins
Thank
game.
you. Yeah. Okay, you go first.
I will. Ervin Santana is definitely interesting. I think he'll be like the second most popular pitcher on this slate. He went the distance his last game against San Diego, and this Milwaukee team's been struggling of late in Minnesota, so it's a park downgrade. If he gets a good umpire, he could be in line for additional Ks than normal. In his last 2 games, he faced the Padres and the Dodgers, who do strike out a bunch. He has had 9 and 7 strikeouts. And the Brewers, strike out the most in baseball against righties. So Santana is definitely in play here. 9.5 on DK, 9.3 on FanDuel. If the Scherzer game has weather, I think a lot of people are going to go to Santana. So we'll have to see what his ownership looks like because he's somebody we could easily fade as well if he's going to be too popular, and he could definitely bust. Even though the strikeouts have been there, he's getting up 4 earned runs versus Dodgers, 5 versus the Tigers before that. He had a great start to the season, but we've seen him kind of regress a bunch in the second half. And we do know that when Milwaukee does hit, they can go off. So it's an interesting spot. If the Scherzer game is canceled, then I think Santana would get a lot of ownership, and we'd have to probably play the fade and probably even play the leverage and grab guys like Thames and Shaw and Braun, and maybe a guy like Domingo Santana and stack against him. On the flip side, Brent Suter pitching. We finally saw him get beat up a little his last start. Twins have a bunch of right-handers that could get to him. I like some of the Twins' bats. Brian Dozier's been hot. He crushes left-handers. Eduardo Escobar is batting second now. I like him at shortstop at the depleted position. If Miguel Sano plays, he'll be in play. Robbie Grossman. Definitely interested in this Twins lineup tomorrow.
Yo.
Yeah. Here's what I got. Okay, 2 things. One, I think he's the only other pitcher on the slate that, if it was a clear slate in Washington, is the only other pitcher that could maybe that could match Scherzer tomorrow if he has a good outing. So if you were fading Scherzer, I think this is who you would go to if the weather was everything right, like game theory wise. But besides that, I went back and looked. He's had 3 complete games this year, more than anybody else in the majors.
Mm-hmm.
His next start after his White Sox start when he scored 63, his next start was against the Indians on 420. God bless you. And it was 34 points at that time. The next start where he pitched 9 against Baltimore when he got 55 points, he pitched home against Houston the next start and he only got 40 points. So this start is 58. So I mean, let's see, the high, his low is 30 and he got a little bit over 40. So you got to figure maybe somewhere around there is where you might be expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But he is facing a Brewers team that strikes out a lot. I would like to maybe see how many pitches he threw last start. I think he probably threw a few.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. And I think tomorrow I like him, and if you were going to play cash tomorrow, after Scherzer, if that game's rained out, this is the other place I would go.
I think I definitely have interest in this kid Suter, especially because Sano has missed a couple games. He got hit in the hand with a pitch and he has a contusion, so he's been out. He's obviously a big lefty matcher that they have, and then Dozier I'm seeing is questionable. Apparently, he's been red hot. So if these 2 guys are out, those are big right-handed bats for them. And if that's the case, I would really be interested in Suter here, especially if we get word that they have a decent ump. Santana, honestly, man, I just think that it just seems, and like Fuego's in the chat, Joe, you made a great point, man. I love the fact that you brought that. That's exactly where I was going, and you went even further than I was going to go, man. That was awesome. And Fuego, I see you in the chat saying the same thing. Santana just pitched a complete game, and most pitchers, not just him. We saw with Luis Castillo even. I love that dude. That's one of the Wise Take favorites for tournaments, and he didn't do all that great. Why? Probably because he went 8 innings the game before. We see it all the time when these guys have to pitch. He threw 110 pitches in his last game, went 9 innings, Ervin Santana. A lot of people, we saw how many people went on Archer today just based off the fact that it's Archer at home, and obviously he was against the Brewers. So especially if like you said, Paulie, if there's some potential weather threat with Scherzer, Santana will be the chalk, especially on DraftKings. We got to pick 2 pitchers because he's the only guy that people think has anything decent. But I personally, if Santana's the chalk, that is not a guy that I want any part of as chalk. His K upside is suspect. It's like he doesn't always have that K upside. So I think that as of right now, Santana's probably the guy that I want to stay away from at the high tier. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just for the simple fact, I think Fuego said he's only had one win after a complete game. So yeah, I think that's interesting. Sure. Let's see. Joe, did you happen to see the message in the chat? Something about hashtag 3-hole. Did you happen to see that one?
Let me see.
I just had to mention that real quick. I was just
you think Patio Joe would get contrary with me? Hashtag 3.
When I saw it, I was like, I am very surprised that I haven't seen Joe's like classic like laugh in the middle of a.
Well, yeah. I mean, when in Rome.
When in Rome, I'll say. All right.
Yes.
Now, Dylan Bundy of the Baltimore Orioles, Fuego's Baltimore Orioles, visiting J.C. Ramirez of Los Angeles Angels. Patio Joe, back to you, brother.
Of Fuego's son, Fuego Chavez, Angels.
Oh no.
So Bundy versus Ramirez, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, but Fuego Chavez, Fuego's son is on the Angels. So even though he's a Baltimore fan, so it's probably a conflict of interest tomorrow, huh, Fuego? Anyways, yeah, I like the Angels. They are hot these days. They just got off a wild game with the A's today. So I wouldn't mind if you fire up. Trout's hit like 3 or 4 home runs in his last like 4 or 5 games. So gotta love that. And on the other side, Ramirez is some guy that he just doesn't have like the huge upside, the huge strikeout potential. I mean, last week he was, when he was facing Philly, you better a lesser team, and he barely struck out anybody. And his upside just isn't there for me. So Baltimore's also coming off of a good series where they hit the ball well too. So I think maybe both of these offenses are in play tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Paulie, what you got, man?
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. This is not a ballpark we usually want to go to for offenses, but on this ugly slate, you got to consider all of them. And, I would say that both these pitchers could be in play as an SP2 on DK, but both these offenses could be also. We'll have to, dig into the research, check the umpires, see how these guys do versus these types of pitchers, and, make a final decision tomorrow. But I agree with Joe. The Angels have been pretty hot lately, and Dylan Bundy's been pretty bad. So I'm leaning towards playing some of these Angels here. And, Baltimore's been hot, and J.C. Ramirez does not have overpowering stuff. The Baltimore righties can definitely get to him here. Chris Davis is definitely in play tomorrow. He'll probably be pretty popular at first base, but I like him anyway. And, I could see, grabbing pitchers or hitters from this game. We'll have to see tomorrow where we land on this.
Yeah, man, for sure. I think for me, I'm Xing out Bundy. I don't like picking on the Angels just because they don't strike out. And on the other side, man, like you make an interesting point about Ramirez because he's like not overpoweringly good, but like he's had his moments. Like he's coming off a pretty good game. And the Orioles, they haven't had it all together. The problem is they just went off today. The other day when they were chalk, nothing. But today, when people finally backed off a little bit, they all went off. Every one of them, Machado, Davis, Scope, like all the usual suspects, all just bombed. So the thing is, we are experiencing, they do strike out a lot. They are coming into a larger ballpark. They're not at home anymore where they typically hit better. So Ramirez, I think, because the pitching is so ugly, he's somebody that we can consider. But at the same time, you can't rule out the Baltimore bats because like you said, it's not like Ramirez has overpowering strength and he's somebody that is going to shut Baltimore down. They could very easily get to him. Either way, the Angels have been red hot. A lot of runs over in the West Coast. Joe's been having a lot of fun with it, just chilling, just watching all the dongs on the West Coast late at night.
Boy, that sounded yeah, I just want to let you know that. All right, bro. I mean, come on, dog. I mean, I'm cool with that. All right, somebody just talked to me about the 3-hole. You're talking to me about watching all the dongs on the West Coast. I mean, first of all, what's funny is that they're hot, but they ain't even close to 44-7. That's what the Dodgers have been in their last 51 games. Which, by the way, means absolutely nothing if you can't win 12 games in the playoffs. So remember that. Everybody who's out there that's a Dodger fan, just remember that. It means nothing if you don't win. You don't win 12 games in the. Yeah, it's just.
Likes to watch late night
I hate it. Yes. love the dongs. Yes. The double dongs too. It's so nice. They call me the skier. You know what I mean? The double dongs.
So it's always a good sport, man. Jake Arrieta of the Chicago Cubs visiting Matt Moore, the lefty from the San Francisco Giants. Take us home, Joe.
Yeah, Arrieta has been a very good the last few starts. So he's 9-8. He's the second highest pitcher on the slate. I just don't know how many people are going to go there. We always say all the time, this Giants team does not strike out a lot. So Arrieta is 36, 34, 39, 46. So he's been okay. I think that he can. I just don't know how much his ceiling is tomorrow. I think his ceiling is maybe 45 points at the most. And on the other side, Matt Moore is a piece of garbage, and you can fire up these Cubs hitters, the lefties and the righties. He is just as generous to both of them. So Rizzo, Bryant, Schwarber, Contreras, everybody, Baez, Russell. I mean, I could name them all. Avila, if he's in there. Zobrist. Do I need to name their whole lineup? If they're in there, I think you can attack more. I think, to be honest with you, he's probably the one pitcher on the slate I think you can attack the most, in my opinion, that I want to attack the most. Now, the Cubs have been that team that has just let us down, but I could see them just crushing him tomorrow.
Yeah. Paulie, what you think here, man?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with those sentiments. Arrieta, I don't think he's got much of a ceiling. He's more of a cash game pitcher, especially if Scherzer game is a no-go. The Giants don't strike out much. They have been hitting a little more lately, but, I probably wouldn't go to Arrieta in tournaments. On DK, I guess he'd have to be in play just because there's not many options, and he could, get you a bunch of innings and not give up a ton of runs. But, not very interesting to me on FanDuel tournaments, one-pitcher site. The Cubs definitely are going to be popular against Matt Moore, especially Chris Bryant and Wilson Contreras. I would probably lean towards some of the guys at the bottom of the order, maybe Albert Almora and Javier Baez, who hit lefties very well. Maybe stick in another left-handed bat like Hayward and get contrarian if you're going to go with the Cubs. But I really don't like stacking teams in this park in San Fran. This is just an extremely ugly slate. So every offense has to be considered, especially against a pitcher as bad as Moore. But I don't think I would go there personally, but I do understand that we have to consider it.
Yeah. I think, by the way, Tyson, I like your passion. He's got some strong takes. You might not agree with him, but damn. I like it. He comes in here. I don't know if he's been here before, but man, he's like, boom.
Yeah, I think that's
Cubs
Wisco, bro.
Cubs are chalk way too often. Fuck them all. Okay.
I think that's Wisco, man.
Oh, Wisco. Okay. I didn't know. I mean, if you say you're Wisco, I understand. I appreciate.
He's got the
black Sammy
takes,
Sosa
though.
is greater than the white Sammy Sosa. Yes, I agree with that.
He said thanks, bro. Oh, man, that's good. Yeah, man, I think, it's an interesting point. It's not a great ballpark. Cubs kind of heating up, sort of. At least Rizzo is. I think Rizzo's a pretty cool play either way, just because Matt Moore sucks against, everybody, even lefties. His believe it or not, his xO to lefties is actually higher than it is to righties. And Rizzo is just a beast. So I think that, he's somebody that will most likely get overlooked. A guy like him has the power to hit it out of any park he so pleases. I'm seeing 80% humidity, Joe. Is this still humid as hell up there or what?
No, it's not that humid anymore.
No?
So maybe up north,
Maybe
up in that cesspool that we call Frisco. Oh God. Ugh.
Yeah, Matt Moore's given up a 264 ISO to lefties. Conversely, only 198 to righties. That's a good point on Rizzo and maybe Zobrist, some other left. Actually, Zobrist is switch, but
Hayward's
Rizzo and Hayward, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that guy.
That'd be interesting.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't have such strong takes like that, but joking. But yeah, man. Hey, man. I appreciate the baseball breakdown, and we'll play some Dong Watch, and maybe we could talk a little bit of football. What do you think?
More dongs, great.
Yeah, we're gonna have to change the name of all this stuff. We're gonna have to like come up with a new name. I don't want to use Home Run Derby because that's like so generic. But
Yeah.
Dong Watch.
What are
is
we
a
gonna
little
do for like
disturbing.
football? You know, like.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
All right, so Dong Watch will do real simple. Let's just go nice and easy. It's only 3-game slate, so we don't got to get cute here. Let's just go first, third, outfield. The spots that the guys that we want to pay up for, positionally typically. Patio Joe, since you were the 5 questions guest today, we're gonna have you go first, my man.
By the way, I want to thank you guys for doing the 5 questions. I mean, I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you did it on a live stream. And it really touches my heart, honestly. And for that, I'm going to pick tomorrow to the home run will be Joey Votto.
Joey Votto, he's been red hot. I like it. Paulie, what you think, man?
I'll take Chris Davis from Baltimore.
Okay, I'll go with Rizzo. No, why not? Give it a shot.
Why not?
Let it ride.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Joe, third base, man.
Third base. I was stuck on there so many times with girls when I was in like high school and college. Just stuck on third base.
Joey never liked that base.
Oh,
People get stuck there for way too long. Nobody. Can
yeah, man. Yeah, like warm apple pie. Anyways, I'm gonna go with Machado.
I like that. Yeah, why not? He's got power.
Mm-hmm.
Paulie, what you got here, bro?
I think Luis Valbuena, great value play on this slate.
Ooh, that's what I said earlier in the chat.
Hits Dylan Bundy's pitch profile well. I think Valbuena is a good third base target tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I like it for sure. I'm gonna go with Shaw. I was talking about how I think Santana might be a trap, so I might as well back it up. And Travis Shaw is one of their better lefty hitters that I feel more confident in. He was supposed to play today, and that's a big reason I went with Archer. He ended up playing anyway because Santana got hit by a pitch and had to leave the game. So that was annoying. But anyway, Travis Shaw. I'm root for him this time. All right, Joey, outfielder.
Outfield, let's see. Outfield, while I look, I don't want to go to the top, even though he's the man. Why don't we go to McCutchen?
Okay. I like that, yeah.
Tomorrow.
I like McCutchen against the Zimmer. Paulie, what you got, man?
Outfielder tomorrow, home run. I'm gonna go off the grid here and say Jarrett Parker, San Francisco Giants.
Well, you really are going off the grid,
bro.
Okay, wait.
You gotta be for Geyer.
You do your home run.
You gotta be for Geyer, and you're going.
Okay,
with Jarrett
you got
Parker.
do your home run thing right now, and then I got a question to ask him. Okay, you do your home run thing.
All right. I'm gonna make mine quick. Real quick, and I'm gonna go with Duval. I'll go with Duval and Chassis.
Okay. All right, but before we get to any football talk, I gotta ask Paulie something. Okay, so if anybody else that you knows that we had a Twitter bet on Friday because Paulie literally said that I blew Carlos Gonzalez last night, and he told me he was going to hit 2 home runs because of it. So we all decided to play Carlos Gonzalez, and I'm not doubting him for that call. But then the next day I read his article, and his play of the day again was Carlos Gonzalez. And this is what I got to ask you for, Paulie. And this is honest God, I'm being serious now. You said get used to this. I want to ask you what are you seeing on him that nobody else, because he was still only 5% owned in those tournaments on Friday night. So I'm wondering, what are you seeing that you're like, get used to this?
Good point.
He's been hitting the ball. I'll pull up some numbers on him to, talk more intelligently, but he's been hitting the ball a lot better. He's in Colorado. Like, this guy, we've seen him have incredible seasons, and I'm just like, I don't think he's going to do as bad as he has all season. And he's been one of the streakier hitters we've seen. So when he gets hot, it can explode. So like warm weather in Colorado, I just like the prospects for him to just have like a massive August and improve on some of the poor numbers he's had all season.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I was cool with it when you were like a day, like you were okay, and then you were like, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm like, okay, because I'm seeing Story as like his hard contact the last 30 days is like tops in the majors, but I'm still not seeing him like do it. It's weird.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
obviously you're seeing something else.
It'll eventually turn around. You know, it's a funny story because Paulie Story's been another guy that you've been waiting for the turnaround for.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's something to that, man. Like I'll bet you their xObas are starting to rise a little bit. You know.
Yeah, you know, Story. He's hit a few home runs lately, but you know he hasn't like put it all together, especially in the games that I've owned him. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. So Carlos Gonzalez, his hard hit rate is up 8%. His exit velocity is up 4 miles per hour in the last 30 days. His distance is up a handful of feet. So I just think that it's going to turn around. And like, if you go through his history, like he's just been a very, very streaky hitter, and he's in that park and they're in a playoff race. I could just see him getting very, very hot and having a big end of the year.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
No, I get it. I mean, that's a big thing with baseball. Think about the law of averages. Baseball is that's kind of what it's all about, right? Like, we see guys just go through slumps and red hot. That's kind of the deal. And what they end up with at the end of the year is their average. So you know, if a guy that we know is more talented than he's shown most of the year, then you have to expect a hot streak to come. Like it's almost like you have to. Like even on a bad year, guys have weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like even if Joey Votto had, I think last year Votto had like kind of a down year, and like he still was a pretty good play most nights because eventually he turned it around and ended up hitting some home runs even on a down year. So that's a great point, especially in cores. And like Joe, like you mentioned. Carlos Gonzalez, this guy is like chalk city the last how many years? 6% in tournaments. So like nobody's on him. So the day that he gets it together, hopefully it's this month because I think Paulie wrote play of the month. He goes, get used to it, play of the month. So hopefully it's this month, and then you know hopefully it happens while Paulie's down at the final or something. Maybe.
While we're on him.
Oh
yeah,
man,
saying, baby.
How awesome would that be if you happen to play him next Sunday and nobody's on him?
That'd be the play of the month. I'll tell you that.
You like tout him.
Oh, hell yeah.
Play of the year, dude, I'm telling you.
Yeah. So real quick before
No,
No.
I'm just gonna say he hit 40 home runs in 2015. He's hit 34 before, 117 RBIs. Like that's not that long ago. You know, I mean, this is a good ball player. Let's see how old is he? He's not that old, I don't think. He was born in. No, that's not when he was born. He's what? Oh, no, that's his debut. I don't know how old he is, but
he's probably 5 years older than whatever it really says it is, though.
True.
Good point, Joey.
He made his debut. He made his debut in 2008, and they're saying he was 22 then. So he's about 32. So he's not getting too old.
He's 37.
Yeah. So expect good things to come, Carlos Gonzalez, next few weeks.
No, I'm with you for sure. So those of you who haven't signed up already, we give a special offer to podcast listeners, 20% off of your membership if you use the promo code podcast. Just go to wisestake.com. You get access to our models. You get access to the chat, which is really cool. We got guys like Galsop who's hanging out in there. Syracuse is always in there. Joe, Paulie, myself, we go in and out of there pretty much throughout the day. We get access to our premium live streams after we've done all of our research. You never know who might be on the show. We've had Fuego on a show. We've had Galsop on a couple. So you never know what we're going to bring. But it's a lot of fun. One thing I could tell you is you will learn the game. You will be better. And you'll have a lot of fun. It's definitely something that our community is definitely a lot of fun. So if you're going to sign up, again, we don't advertise that on any other platform, just the podcast, because we appreciate you guys listening to us. And this podcast, if you don't want to sign up, will always, of course, be free. But it's 20% off of the monthly, daily, or weekly passes. And promo code is podcast. Anyway, so real quick, guys, we have a little bit of time here, but I wanted to ask you guys your opinions. I wanted to talk about some quarterbacks. Like I want to talk about proven quarterbacks. The reason I want to talk about, do we think guys that we think are going to progress, have decent years, maybe guys that we think are going to have some down years. There's one guy in particular, since I'm hosting, that I'd like to ask you guys about, because this guy won me a lot of money last year. But it's funny because my brother mentioned some concerns about him this year. That guy is Drew Brees. I made a lot of money playing the Saints last year. No figure, they're a fast team. They pass a lot, but they did add I think they're expecting to have a little more of a running game this year, right? They went out and signed themselves a running back. So Joe, start us off. Tell me what you think about Drew Brees.
Drew Brees at home is like Coors Field,
right? To
me, and New Orleans is like Coors Field of the NFL right now. So if they're at home, I like Brees very much. It's like Ben. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. And I honestly don't think that it's going to slow down their offense that much. I don't think they're going to run that much more than they already have. They've always had 2 running backs as it is. Peyton always likes to do the up tempo. Breeze always throws 50 times. So what? Okay, so maybe he throws 45 times a game now. I'll still take that. I'll still take Breeze. I'm fine with that.
Good point. Paulie, any thoughts on Breeze, bro?
Yeah, I kind of I'm a little bit off of Breeze. I think especially like where he's going to be getting drafted versus what his value will be. I do think that the Saints are trying to change their like style a bit. They're improving their defense and running game, and may not run as many plays as they normally have. I think the time to take Drew Brees will be at home versus better opponents where they might be trailing and he'll be forced to throw a bit more in like the comeback role. But I think in games where they're playing weaker opponents, we may see them run a bunch and you won't get the 5 or 4 touchdowns and 400 yards that you're used to from Breeze. But overall, like I think he's probably going to be like 3rd or 4th quarterback drafted, and I think that's just way too high in most like standard scoring leagues. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of getting the quarterback late.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. For sure. I mean, they got Adrian Peterson now, right? Is that who they got, running back?
Yeah, Adrian Peterson, the kid who won the Heisman at Alabama. Ingram. He had a pretty good year last year.
In the long run, you would think that it would help Drew Brees significantly, not necessarily from a DFS or fantasy perspective, but just from a longevity perspective. Like you said, Paulie, they can kind of ease his workload a little bit. His passes will be more like maybe he'll pass more efficiently rather than quantity because they're going to have to prepare for the run game now. Like even if they can't run block, you still got AP. You got to respect that. So teams can't just double team and throw their guys in the back, daring them to run anymore. So I think it's interesting for sure. Let's talk about Big Ben. I want to talk about Ben Roethlisberger. Obviously, we heard he was considering retirement. I think the concussion stuff maybe got in his head a little bit. He's obviously a guy that's had a lot of concussions, and the way he plays, man, he takes the hit. I love watching Big Ben play. He's another guy that I love playing in DFS just because he's so good, such a good football guy. Joe, what do you think about him? What kind of year do you see him having this year?
At home only. That's the only time I play him in DFS. I don't play him on the road. He's proven not even to be a contrarian play. He's been proven to be bad. So I think there's a good offense. I think the key to that offense is Martavis Bryant. Yeah. If you throw Martavis Bryant in there and then you throw everybody forgets they drafted Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, in the 2nd round out of SC. So you got all those receivers, and if he can stay healthy, I like it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody you could probably get pretty late this year, and I don't mind it. I think he's got the ability to, put up big numbers still with his supporting cast. And, I think they're going to be a team in a bunch of like higher scoring, not so much defense kind of games. And with Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, some of the other receivers, and now they added the tight end, Ladarius Green. That was injured a bunch last year, but if he's healthy, I think a good tight end is a great pairing for Roethlisberger. I think he's a good quarterback. You can get him at a good value. He's somebody I'm interested in. But, like Joe said, you really want him more at home. And I think Pittsburgh's going to do a ton of running this year. I'm really not even that high on AB. I wouldn't take him like in the top 5. I think he's going to have a little bit of a down year as compared to some other receivers. I don't think he's like the lock best receiver that everyone's pretty much just like designated him as. So that's like my little bit contrarian take on the Steelers. I would take a handful of receivers over Brown. And like with that thought, it kind of like pushes me a little bit off of Roethlisberger as well. Like, I think they're going to look to have Le'Veon Bell carry that team. And Le'Veon Bell is just an amazing, amazing talent. That's like transforming the way running backs are going to play the game. I think in like 10 years, you're going to see most running backs do it like Bell, where he's not just like bursting into a hole, but kind of like slow footing till he finds a lane. And, I think that's going to like allow running backs to survive in the league a lot longer and become a style that more backs use. I think the Steelers are going to become a pretty run heavy team unless the game forces them to pass.
Okay. That's definitely some great stuff, man. You guys are getting me excited for football, man. Definitely. I'm gonna throw another name out there. Not as recognized of a name, obviously not as established. as some of those guys. Marcus Mariota. Let's talk about Mariota because he was a great GPP play for a lot of people last year. And I'm curious now that the cat's out of the bag. The kid could throw in the majors. In the NFL. Although he does seem to be a little bit. I don't know if it's size or what, but he seems to be a little bit fragile. So let's talk about Marcus Mariota and where he stands. And what do you guys think?
He's like the I don't know, like the flavor of the month, I guess, in quarterbacks that people are ranking in the top 3 or 4. Yeah. And I'm not saying I disagree with it. I just don't see a receiver besides Rashard Matthews that has done anything in his career. He's got Delaney Walker I like, and then he's got a good running game.
What about the guy from the Jets, the receiver, the white guy?
Decker?
Yeah,
Eric Decker. Eric Decker is a great number 2 receiver. If he ever has to be the number 1 receiver, look in his career. He is terrible. Whenever he has a good number 1 receiver, he thrives every time. So I don't think that he has another number 1 receiver next to him. Rashard Matthews is another number 2. Maybe in time Corey Davis might be, but he's a rookie. So in my opinion, like, I like Mariota and I will draft him, but it has to be in the right value. I'm not going to reach. I'm not going to reach for him like some people will. I will, I will wait for some quarterback to fall. Like last year, Andrew Luck fell to me in the 7th round in my main draft, and I'm like, I can't pass that up at that point, even though I like to even wait longer. So it has to be like, if Mariota was still there in like the 9th or 10th round and nobody's there, man, it's kind of hard not to. But I just don't see, there's so many guys that will get 20 points less than him on the year, and you could have got him 4 rounds later or 5 rounds later.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I just think he's way too trendy and going way higher than what his value actually is. I don't see how like you take him over Jameis Winston and 2 rounds earlier. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. So I kind of think like, when guys get this trendy, they tend to disappoint. They're a run first team. They've got a good defense, so they may actually be winning more games than they did last year. They have an easier schedule because they didn't make the playoffs. I'm off Marcus, especially where he's been going now.
Yeah, no, I got you for sure. All right, so it looks like by popular demand, a little biased because Joe asked me to do it also. My brother wants me to do it, which he gets the favoritism, and then obviously Joe seconded it. We're going to have to talk about Carr from the Raiders, Oakland. Having a great year last year, great GPP play last year, won a lot of people a lot of money. He won Eric Crane the $1 million, the Carr Crabtree, and what's his name? The other guy, I can't think of his name right now. Hooper. All right, Hooper. Stack. So go ahead. Let her rip, Joe.
Yeah, I think David Carr is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the National Football League. I'd say it right now. He is protected by a good line, and last year everything went right. I agree with Mr. Robert. The Raiders will miss the playoffs this year. Okay. First off, Carr's got to go up against 6 of the best cornerbacks in the league. He's got to go up against some of the best defenses in the league. The AFC West is not going to be a pushover division. It's one of the best divisions in the league. Like I said, everything went right for the Raiders last year until Carr got hurt. I mean, it was, and then you saw what their team was. They were terrible. So he's a good player, but Phillip Rivers is just as good as him, has just as many weapons, and Amari Cooper is the biggest bust. You shook your head? We'll go 10 rounds. Amari Cooper is the biggest bust. This year. If you draft him in your 2nd round, 3rd round, I can buy it. But Amari Cooper has got to go up against 6 of the best corners in the division, in the league, and that's not even talking about out of the division. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm off the Raiders. Oh, and then Marshawn Lynch. Okay, I remember, do you remember another 30-year-old running back who took a year off and came back and did a lot? I'll wait. 1, 2, yeah. It hasn't happened. Okay, so until I see some guy who's done it, how do you know he's gonna just take a year off after he's gonna do great? He's gonna be a perfect short down guy. He's gonna get maybe his 800 to 1,000 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns, but he's not gonna be what everybody thinks he's gonna be. Calm your roll.
Okay. Paulie.
I like Derek Carr. I think like Joe's point where you saw how bad they were without him shows how good he is. I know a lot of things went right. I know they will have a much tougher schedule this year, considering how deep they made the playoffs. And their division has, some great cornerbacks and defensive teams. But, that's only 6 of 16 games. And some of those games could get high scoring. You can't say that like a game against San Diego can't turn into like a 35-34 kind of shootout. And he's got talented receivers and a great O-line. I think he's going to continue to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And like once guys like Brady and Breeze and Rodgers are out, I think, he's like the next, top quarterback in this league, fairly soon. I think he's really, really good. He's done really well at such a young age, and he's only going to improve.
All right, okay. I understand this, but listen, he is no better. He's no better than his brother. You know what he had besides his brother? His brother didn't have? Exactly. Okay, so his brother got sacked the most out of any quarterback in the league, like his first 3 years, and he was out of the league. He was shell shocked. Okay, yep. So he's behind a great offensive line. I'll give the Raiders that. So that's why I think Carr. Let's see what he does another year. Last year they were the up and coming team. This year they're the team with the target on their back. There's a lot of big difference when expectations. You really have to keep it up there. They got lucky last year, actually losing that last game of the year, and they actually finished second in the division. So they didn't have to play. Don't have to play the first place teams in the other divisions of the AFC. So it'll be interesting. I'm not saying. Look, I just think that everybody's on the Raiders, and I think that they're a good team. But I think everybody should just calm your roll. Like some of the stuff that went wrong, that happened last year, was just absolutely crazy, and sometimes you don't win those games in like a 5-quarter game against Tampa on the road. I mean, that doesn't happen every year. So, it's everybody just calm your roll a little bit on the Raiders. Okay, so somebody says about the Broncos QB situation. Man, I'm just off of all like Bronco players, like Demarius and Manuel. I just don't know, so I don't want to go there unless they really fall.
Yep.
I
agree with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got a guy. It was good to mention the Broncos situation. Is there anything you guys want to add, or did we cover it?
And as long as everybody says that the Chiefs going to win the division, and somebody says the Broncos win. Well, you know what? Then I'm going to say the Chargers win it. You know what? Everybody talks shit about the Chargers. I'm going to tell you one thing. Okay, they have the 2 best corners in the league. They have the 2 best defensive ends in the division. So if they're going to build with defense, they can hold some teams down, and they've always been able to score. So if they can stay healthy on the side, which obviously look what happens already, they've lost their number 2 pick guard for the year, tore his ACL like 3rd day of camp. So so it's I just think the Chargers are going to surprise people. And they're going to be they're way better than a 5-win team. That's my thing. And they could win the division very easily.
Oh, they're great for fantasy purposes. I tell you what, their players for DFS purposes are phenomenal. I love playing them last year, man. Paulie, anything to add on the Chargers? Because there's one more guy that I want to ask you guys about after.
I like the Chargers this year. I definitely agree they're going to be much better than 5 wins. Some rankings have their defense in the top 5. And, I don't think that's false. I don't think they have the best quarterbacks in the league, but 2 very good ones. It's going to be hard to pass on them. Joey Bosa adds a pass rush dimension, which is kind of like the most important thing in football right now on defense is, rushing the opposing quarterback. So having good corners and good DNs is a combination that usually does well for a team. On the offensive side, whoever emerges as their number 1 receiver, Hunter Henry and the running back that emerged last year are all good, season long and FanDuel type players. So, Phil Rivers, a veteran, he's been dying to win. I think he has a chance to have a really good season. I like the Chargers this year. Yeah,
they're definitely lining up right. All right, this is the last guy I want to ask you guys about, and then we'll get out of here. Famous Jameis Winston. Another young guy threw the ball a lot.
Yeah, I like him again. If the value opens up right, he's got a lot more options available to him So I like him. I think he's going to progress. They drafted O.J. Howard as a number 2 tight end, which I still like Cameron Brate, make America great again. And I like Mike Evans. I believe it or not, I'm more higher on Jameis Winston than I am on Mike Evans. If you look at Mike Evans last year, he got tons of targets, he got tons of yards, he got good touchdowns, but his after the catch was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that he's going to go down. I just don't think he is. He's probably like wide receiver number 6 or 7 on my board right now, or 5 to 7. He's not in the top 4 to me. I like AJ Green more than Evans. So Jameis, I like Jameis because he's got Deshaun Jackson. He's got way more weapons. If he can get, they need to get a little bit of a running game. So Jaquiz Rodgers, I think, is going to be a good value in the beginning of the year, both in DFS and in season long. If you draft him in the beginning of the year, people won't know that he's the starter and Martin's out the first 3 games. So his price will probably be low on FanDuel and DraftKings to start the season. And he always seems to go off. They feed him the rock because he knows that offense. So that's why he's a good gem. But I like Jameis.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I love Jameis Winston. The guy's proven at every level that he can play, he can lead. He's an impressive guy overall. Like, coming in, starting as a rookie, improving that team right away. And then I agree with what you said on Evans. I think he's going to have a significantly down year from last year. I think he's probably the most overrated receiver right now. I think Deshaun Jackson is going to take a lot of targets away and a lot of touchdowns away. But I think that opens up Jameis Winston's game where he doesn't have to just focus on one guy. And with the tight end and Cameron Brate improving, I think it's a very, very well-balanced team with an improving defense that's going to go far this year also. So I love Jameis. And I love where he's going. Like, his average draft position is like the 12th round. That's like the exact kind of guy I'm looking to grab.
Yeah, and their defense is bad. So when you're in DFS, you love a quarterback like Winston because their defense is going to be giving it up. So he has to keep coming back with points.
Yep.
So that's how you do it in DFS. Sometimes taking the underdog QB is the way to go, is the way to win a tourney.
Yep, for sure.
All right, man. Hey, guys, this was a lot of fun, man, as it is every Sunday night when we can get together, do a live show for free for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's always a good time, man. I appreciate it again, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome, CK.
All right, guys. So also, those of you who hung out with us, we appreciate you, especially those of you that stayed and talked some football with us in the chat. These shows are great, man, and these are something that we're always going to do free. It's our way to almost like giving back to the community to a degree. And we appreciate it. Anyway, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, click that like button. That thumbs up means a lot to us. If you're watching on Podbean, give us a follow. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to that channel as well. And leave us some 5-star reviews to buzz up those charts. Anyway, guys, of course, for those of you that are members, you'll see us on the live shows. We'll be back with the live show premium stream tomorrow for members. We'll have the articles, Joe's Cash Game article, Straight Cash Homie, Paulie's Attacking GPPs, a.k.a. Palm Trees and GPPs. We'll be out as well. I'll have the pitching prospectus for GPPs as well. Cuse will have his VMI thing. We'll have Jason Gady on the exit velocity stuff. We're going to be rolling, man. It's Monday. It's back to business. Anyway, for Paulie, for Joe, and myself, good luck.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah.